All right, guys, this video is for all my bait maker friends out there and everyone in the bait making community that likes to dabble in the gray when they're making their baits, which we all love. But I saw a video, I think it was on TikTok, and it didn't really align with what I had heard at the expos last year, and talking with some people this year, um, about the Chatterbait. And we all know that the patent that basically govern the chatterbait and the actual relationship, you know, um, and how that blade attaches to the jig head, and that patent, which is a patent that James Ronald Davis, obviously Ronald Davis, um, Z-Man, South Carolina, um, had a patent on that for their chatterbait lines that have been around for a while. That were pretty revolutionary, and the fishing became all the craze for a long while. And it's what always happens in fishing. Things become a craze, and everybody latches on, and then you get the custom, secondary, the aftermarket, the secondary market. Guys like it, and then they try to tweak things a little bit, and some guys are doing it better than others in terms of not violating the pattern, having it a little bit different blade, different. It wasn't so much the blade as it much was the mechanism of which how the blade was attached to the to the jig head, right? So let's talk about this chatterbait really quick, okay? And the patent update. So the video was talking about how and there were a couple videos out there, and some people were like, that's no longer on patent, and it came off patent last fall, and I don't really think that's the case. And so if you go back and you look and you take the time to actually read the patent and the application and the adjustments made to the patent over the years, that kind of extend the life of the patent in some ways. Um, it's kind of really interesting. And you look at the litigation, and the settlements that happened throughout the active live patent. Okay, because Z-Man did have settlements and litigation where they brought litigation against um, lure makers for violating their patent. So it's a snag resistant fishing lure. Let's talk about the chatterbait. Just what's the patent say? What's the no, we know how we perceive chatterbaits to be. But what's the reality, the governing patent for the Z-Man chatterbait? Okay? It's a snag resistant fishing lure designed to minimize the chances of a lure becoming ensnared. The lure has a jig and a blade attached to the blade in a configuration that limits the side-to-side movement of the blade, thereby preventing the jig from rolling and hooking downward position prone to snagging. Okay? Oftentimes we have that issue with our swim jigs, okay, or regular jigs, right? Not rolling action sometimes and get caught, snag rocks, wood, that kind of thing. A central aligned hole is positioned close to the front edge of the blade member. An eyelet extending from the jig body is attached through an aperture in the blade. The blade is limited to its side-to-side movement from the jig bodies attached from that blade. The blade is limited in its side-to-side movement by contact between the blade edge and either the blade body, okay, or the eyelet. So you also get that noise, right, that we like in that chatterbait. The limited side-to-side movement of the blade creates a quick, controlled, oscillating blade action that imparts a natural swimming motion to the lure, emulating prey species movements. So that is your abstract for the patent that Mr. Davis has on file. Okay, it also provides the patent also provides 10 images, okay, as part of the patent, describing how that blade is attached to that eyelet. Okay? It also has classifications. Okay? A01 K85/14, artificial bait for fishing with flat or substantially flat, undulating bodies, e.g. spoons. It has 3 other classifications, okay, to it. So you can check that out. Again, the consumer may not care about this stuff and they're just going to pick it up. But if you're at a show, you know what I mean, or you're finding some, that kind of thing, and people are talking about this because Z-Man is a really, really popular brand. There are a lot of people sponsored by Z-Man, and you can actually have this conversation to be like, hey man, so in 2016, publication US 9253967B2, okay, that was an application granted which extended the Chatterbait patent from before. Okay, now this, if you go in the event, show all events, okay, they assigned to Z-Man Products, okay, he assigned the Z-Man fishing product, they assigned this patent to Z-Man, okay, on 7/22/2016. Most patents in fishing, from what I understand and what I have found, go at least a minimum of 10 years. So that would put the patent on the Chatterbait Z-Man to expire according to the patent records here where I live, okay, and the office, okay, on February 4th, 2026. So technically, the patent on the Z-Man Chatterbait has 1 year left, basically from next, Tuesday or Wednesday to 2026. So if you are a bait maker, again, do your own due diligence. If you're making chatterbaits or really anything, micro, anything with that blade attach mechanism, okay, and you want to make sure that you're following those patents. There's 113 patent citations, cited 37 times. You've got a worldwide applications for the patent. It's got, like I said, US 92, you can actually Google it, US 9253967B2 is the updated patent on the Chatterbait, okay? So just throwing this out there. Hope everybody catches this on YouTube. I did talk to people. I did have a few phone calls for some people that asked me to look into it, and I got back to them. And so they can see that, and I sent them this information. If you'd like this information provided to you, I certainly can send it to you, or I'll actually just link it in the description so you can go and look at the patent, download the PDF file for the patent. You can see all the images. It's really cool. It's really cool how they when you got to go get a patent for stuff like that, how you have to have all your designs set up. And so it really is a really good idea, and that's probably where a lot of the guys have gotten their kind of spec kind of things to try and do some custom stuff. And we've seen some guys get pretty close, or some guys get too close to the Z-Man product. And like I said, it's probably been one of the most fastest selling baits, probably one of the most sold baits, probably, in the history of jigs. Okay, definitely vibrating jigs. Okay, obviously they control that market, but just overall jigs, it's probably, the number one seller before. Think about bass fishing, the pro level, okay? And everything always comes down from the pro level because that's where the eyeballs are, that's where the marketing starts, that's where the money gets put in, and it trickles all down to everybody else like us who actually support the fishing market through our consumer dollars. Think before forward-facing sonar, live scope. Before 2016, let's do 2018. Because it was around in 2016 and 2017. It's been around for a while, but I mean like the new tech. Okay, so we use 2018. Before that, in that time frame, 04, like 5, 6, 7, and throughout that, when you look at, I think the first patent on a chatterbait was 2004. Pretty sure. It was probably the most talked about bait. And then we got into live scope, and now it's not nearly as talked about, okay? Because we're on to the next best craze for the marketing. We've all absorbed the chatterbait. Almost all of us have a chatterbait in one form or another, either a Z-Man or an Evergreen or a JDM, which I believe, in my own personal opinion, they came out first before the Z-Man style chatterbait came out. But again, in terms of that patent, setup, unique, for sure. But the style of the vibrating jig, or a custom, or something you bought at a show, or something you bought online, on TikTok or Instagram. A guy who's is generating his own baits. Virtually all of us have a chatterbait in one form or another. It may not be able to be called a chatterbait. Okay, it may just be called a vibrating jig or a bladed jig. But we all pretty much have that in our arsenal. So that's why I thought you might be interested in that. I mean, we'll hear about a little bit some more of this if again, people don't absorb it and more lawsuits are coming. It's coming off of patent. So this, if this is the reality, they've got another year of really controlling that. And so they're going to want to make that, they're going to make that last bang, you know what I mean? That last bang, hurrah, the last year on this run that they've had, given the fact that the market, the major market is on to now more of a live scope, forward facing sonar type baits and associated with the jig head and small, soft plastics and all of that stuff. It's the next wave, the next craze, and then we'll get on to another one probably in a year or two that will replace that. And like I said, it's all marketing. It all comes down top. Even though people aren't going to be talking about a chatterbait this year, I can almost guarantee you it's not going to get talked about on the Elite Series. We're not going to get talked about at Bass Pro Tour on live and all that stuff for the most part. It's probably not. Most of the events are more geared towards live scope and forward-facing sonar and that stuff. Does not mean it's still not going to catch you fish. Okay? I've seen that time and time again. Everything is always a cycle. That, baits that were catching us fish in the 80s and 90s still catch fish today. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay? No, the chatterbait's not going to go away. In fact, if it does come off patent, we may see an abundance of newer styles, but predicated on that design coming out into the marketplace. So we could get flooded with a lot more options than we already have for the chatterbait. But just thought you guys might want to enjoy that and engage in that conversation. Put in your comments what you think about the Z-Man chatterbait. I technically prefer my customs over to the Z-Man. And it's not a product of Z-Man. Z-Man's a great company. It's a product of everybody else has the chatterbait. Like everybody else, like for example, in the Susquehanna River, everybody's throwing the Z-Man Golden Shiner style coloration patterns for the chatterbait. And when everybody else is throwing the same bait, your smallmouth get conditioned to it. Largemouth get conditioned to baits. Okay, all fish get conditioned to their environments. And so it's nice to be able to have a vibrating jig or a bladed jig that has a little bit different sound, right? A little bit different. It's just slightly different to where it makes that, it makes that bass a little bit more curious than the sound that he hears all the time. You guys know this for ourselves. When you're around noise and you're around sound a lot, whereas in the beginning you would turn and look. You turn and look, right? You don't turn and look anymore, right? That same thing happens to all animals. Okay, deer, prime example. Deer will turn and stop and look at every little sound, right? And so it's just like, but when you get conditioned to it, it's normal. There's nothing to fear. Okay, right? And it's the same way for bass. A lot of people don't talk about that, but the reality of it is any kind of little subtle changes you can make in your major brand baits, like the custom guys have done with the chatterbait, and bladed jig, vibrating jig in that segment. It creates a lot of curiosity, and that's curiosity entices strikes, especially with smallmouth. All right, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can message me or you can join our newsletter and get access to a lot more content, a lot more free baits, a lot more giveaways, a lot more information. It's going to make you a better angler, and that's really what's the purpose of this channel. If you don't get any takeaway when it comes to fishing, we want to make everybody a better angler. We want to make everybody get that PB this year in 2025, out on their river, out on their lake, reservoir, wherever you're fishing. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to this year. Looking forward to it thawing out here. We can get out there. We can throw some vibrating jigs, right? We can throw some bladed jigs, some chatterbaits, and the lipless. All right, guys.